topics that I talk about.
Right. You're supposed to talk about, there's a very specific lens through which you're allowed to speak and make lots of money, so...
And it's usually women who talk about a product that they use, and then they somehow are an affiliate where they link to the thing. So they're like, oh, if you like the makeup that I'm wearing today, buy this lipstick, and, I'm my affiliate link. So YouTube seems to like that type of thing, and it keeps on showing up in my recommended videos.
Yes.
But they don't bring things into the recommended videos like, questioning the true nature of reality. And, hey, thank you for sending me that link to the woman, the video, I don't even remember her name.
Becky Barron?
Yeah. Great video, and I appreciate her and her authenticity. So just really good to see that there are other good people out there.
Yeah, it's good. There are people out there, and I know there's interference, but for myself, I've seen that it's always contingent on my own internal levels. So, like, if I'm feeling down, if I'm depressed, if I'm angry, then I'm vulnerable to all of the manipulations and interference and all that. If I'm strong internally, I'm in my own, protected space, and then also everybody who's joining in to watch or to participate also enters into that umbrella, so to speak, because there is lots of rain and storming and, things happening in the psychic and the, etheric, astral realms, everything around us, like you've talked about it before, but like we're traveling through space, right? This whole realm, you could say, is like a molecule or something that's traveling through space, right? So we can't necessarily see all of the things that are interacting, but things are flowing through our space, even if we can't see them, right?
Yes.
Right. So we are live, and how do I do this?
Your life is not real.
Hold on one second.
It is a construct.
The way I'm doing this, so I can interact with the viewers and they can interact with us, is that I'm using my cell phone to watch my own stream, and they can talk and interact with the chat. And if they have questions for you or for us in general, then I can relay that information.
Good, you relay the chat, because I have it set up on my computer here that I don't see the chat streaming, I just see you in Zoom.
Exactly. That's. I think that will work fine. We have 4 viewers already.
Wonderful.
I know a fair amount of people said they wanted to watch this, and it's an important topic as well. We always go over interesting things, but this theme of this realm, this world being projected from somewhere, whether it's Atlantis or whether it's Becky's egg-shaped machine with spiders on either end, whatever it actually is, I think the form of it is less important than the actuality of the idea. The idea that we are incepting from some other level.
I agree completely, but I understand why Becky in that video was describing it as an egg. Like, I'll draw it out. Can I do a whiteboard here?
Yeah, please do.
Thank you, because I'm so visual. I see everything as like this. So I will drop my famous stick figures here. Like here, this is you or me or anyone. That stick figure does not even have a properly created skull. This is how fast I'm doing it. So imagine that everything out here, this is the uncollapsed waveform of fifth dimensional and higher reality. It's just an abstraction. It's like what's printed on my dress. It's just, it's not anthropomorphic. It doesn't look like people with faces and bodies. It's just potential. And then the circle that I just drew, that's like we're inside of that bubble of perception. And it's like, if you could imagine, all of this is batter or dough that is raw. We bake the cake with the ovens of our eyes. So as our eye ovens look at reality, we are baking this into an actual solid surface. But it's just entirely based upon our perception. And I think that's a crucial foundation standpoint to start from, because I don't see God or the divine as something that is external to us. This is really big. The idea that has been programmed into us from a lot of religious training that says God is an embodied anthropomorphized figure, like with eyes, nose, mouth, and beard, that stands in the sky and is external to us and looks down on us. Mm-hmm. I think that God is actually that shell that is the generative field around us, and that anything that we're experiencing in reality is arising in this moment. So in order to, my sweater, to say, oh, the traditional way of thinking of it would be a sweater was created in a factory and woven on a loom, and then it went to a store, and then it went to me. No, what's actually happening is the potential for sweater exists in the fifth dimensional and higher reality of uncollapsed waveforms, and then my eyes and observership bake those potentials into an actual thing that I see here within my sensorium. So that's like the footing from which we're having this type of conversation.
Yeah. And that it's empowering, right? It's empowering to know that what they called the double slit experiment in the early mid-1900s, right? It's the same thing. It's the idea that you form your reality with your own observance of it, and it is what you could call sacrilegious or blasphemous in terms of major religions, but major religions are there so you don't realize that potential for the very express purpose that you don't realize that potential, and it's not really a big deal that they don't want that, because if you remove the idea of a boogeyman, like a big evil guy, then you see that the religions are probably there just as challenges for us, like, can we still manifest even though the tax man is there and the religionist is there, the person threatening hell is there, all these things are there. Can we still sort of like create our little bubble surrounding to be amenable to our own taste, or do we have to submit to some very amorphous ideal that nobody knows what the ideal actually is, but there's just a feeling like it must be a certain specific something, right?
In the exact same way that you're saying that you see earthly religions as control mechanisms, social and cultural and perception control and behavior control, I agree completely. And they also exist as part of, let's say, the narrative context that we receive as soon as we come here into this body. So this is like onto the meat and potatoes of why I said, like, let's have a video and talk about this. I've had, I would say, squinty perceptions. Like if I'm looking with my inner eye and I could see kind of like squinty a little bit of this understanding. And I would share that with, the classes and teachings and type of things that I did over the years. But within the past, like say 4 or 5 months, I got a much clearer vision. And within the past 2 weeks, I got a very startlingly clear vision of what is our true situation. So I used to describe this as Atlantis was a time that is ancient and something that had already happened in our far distant past, but that's analogous to saying I'm looking at the rational, logical origins of my sweater and I'm saying it came from a factory and was woven on a loom. And in my more recent raw, like unadulterated, like not watered down perceptions, I could see that Atlantis is not or was not. We're going to have problem now with timey-wimey language, but Atlantis not as something that happened in the far distant past and is remembered almost like a distant mythological era, but something that is literally ongoing, concurrent, and that, let's say, this is that viewpoint of our bodies in Atlantis. We got, I want to say, sucked down here into this reality not a long time ago. It literally just happened. But when you come into this level of reality where we are food eaters and poopers and death exists and disease exists, we get that paradigm contextual narrative chunk in a chunk. And the contextual narrative says, human civilization began 5,000 years ago in ancient Sumeria and ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and here are their ruins, and here are this and that. But all of that is not accurate. So don't think of history anymore as a linear journey that brought us to this moment. The actual journey was you literally just got here into your physicality, into your physical body. Like as a baby, you can think of it like that too, that being born here is coming schlumped in here into this reality, and that all of human history is a program. And there's a lot of things that are going on, thought experiments with people thinking about something called Tartaria and the mud flood. I am not a proponent of this. I only bring it up because mostly I think that it's clickbait on YouTube. No offense to anyone, but it's like, what's the latest fad? For a little while, the latest fad was Mandela effect. Then no one wanted Mandela effect. Then now everybody wants Tartaria and the mud floods. So some people are like, okay, like running to keep up with the fads. But the positive thing about that, it's a reassessment of our history. And there are some other, visionaries and thinkers that are also reassessing our history in terms of linear description. Like if monks were in charge of taking care of our historical records and they edited these things out, and then the king came along and edited these things out, that our chronology is not accurate. So all of these things, I'm not saying they're accurate. I'm validating the feelings behind them. The feelings are the sense that our history is fake, that it is implanted, and that it is used for manipulative purposes. So stick with me on that level, that our history, you cannot take it at face value. You have to understand that it is a manipulative narrative structure that is given to us, including all of the religious paradigms that include who we are in creation. Like a sense of you're a sinner and you're low and you're not God, because that was Gary's point, saying like that you have to externalize somehow the body part that is actually a part of you that's creating everything, and say, it ain't me, it's God. I give it all to God, and I take no credit or no responsibility for it, because the real empowerment is saying I take both credit and responsibility. And so the work that I do when I talk about flying rainbow lasagna and this becoming a virtuoso of reality, becoming a genetic virtuoso, where you can play the most beautiful intentional music with your DNA to create the reality bubble around you that you want. That's what we were designed for. That's what our lives were intended to be like. So the realm that we're inhabiting right now, that I keep saying we got schlumped into, like imagine like you're going down the road in this direction, all of a sudden someone pulls you off the road at 90-degree angles. That's how our consciousnesses got taken from our exalted state in the realm that I'm calling Atlantis, but it's like a utopia. And I'll describe that world that we came from, and also who I am in sense of this, because this is all, I know the language becomes difficult. So for anyone who's new and people that are just catching this video, I'm a walk-in, and I've always described myself over the past 18 years of being here since 2001 as a galactic walk-in, and meaning that it's not like I'm another human who was floating around waiting for a body and this body died and I came into this body. No, I'm in abstraction. I'm from the level of consciousness abstraction. That means like what's on my dress is an abstract pattern, as opposed to my face, which is anthropomorphic, shaped like a human. 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. And we can see that that's a person. So Aurora, cosmic Aurora, exist in a world that just looks like waveform patterns. That's like why I paint these paintings. Right. That world exists, and then there's the projection from that world into Atlantis, which is a divine utopian world where there is no distortion or limitation in the perfect expression of who you are as abstraction, and then who you are into being embodied, like being in matter, being, physicality. Because I think that we have this whole here, and from our perspective, very valid presumption that to be in matter is to be perforce distorted. I'm here to say no, that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that we can be materialized in this level of density and still maintain our frequency, like keep our instrument in tune, not just go like lower and more distorted, like I'm pretending like we're slowing down the audio track. Right. That you can have a low note. I'm going to play a low note. That's a beautiful low note that is in tune. It's not distorted. So that's what our lives were like in Atlantis. But I didn't live in the culture on the ground, walking around on 2 feet back then. I was much more of like, let's say like a creative council, like the gardeners that are helping to make the garden happen and make culture happen. And I cared about that place very much. Atlantis was invaded by consciousness invaders. And I've talked about this openly for a long time, and many other people share their ideas too, which are all, similar but might be flavored differently. But I didn't have the real understanding up until the last 2 weeks or so when I got clearer eyesight on this. that our bodies were invaded at that level of Atlantis, where none of us ever died, none of us ever had disease. This is the first experience for that level of our being that ever experienced anything other than a profound state of health and vitality and being like 20 feet tall, immortal in the sense that you could die, but you don't choose to. So that if I use my little sculptures, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm going off camera. Hold on.
You're good.
I'm so rude. I'm sorry. Because I wanted to get my sculpture here. I hope you can see it okay. So if we could say that this is what your chakras are shaped like, and these are what your timelines are shaped like, and the central timeline going up the middle here is what we're supposed to experience. And if you go at an angle, you hit the membrane of death. Mm-hmm. No one back in that time hit the membrane of death. These peripheral experiences existed as a potential that no one explored. Like that game of Operation where you have to get the little plastic bones out of that guy's leg, and if you touch the edge, it goes, eh. No one in Atlantis ever touched the edge. They never got hit the penalty box. They never lost their video game. They just went in a perfect loop out of, abstraction into embodiment and then back into abstraction. And the genetic invasion that happened on our planet or in that realm or in that level of reality is what short-circuited that loop. And the consciousness that is in Atlantis that had never experienced disconnection from the divine or disease in any way or death in any way, all of a sudden got very, very sick. So the big takeaway that I want to say to everyone who's watching this video is that we all have bodies that are in another realm that I'm just loosely labeling Atlantis, that it is a physical realm. It is a realm that up until this point had been totally undistorted and a state of perfect health and vitality, and that we all ascended and never died, and that this is our first experience of death, and that we either have died or are in the process of dying in that world, and that the entirety of this experience here in this realm, all of the chunk of what you call human history that gets put on your head when you come here as a baby, and everything that we experience here is within, let's call it the coma dream, the dream of the comatose, not only one body, but here's important, it's a consensual reality. So Gary, I know you from that level of reality. I have many people that I interact with here that I know them from that level of reality, and I know them here too. We'll talk about this, like there's not a perfect translation. So your face there might not look exactly like your body here because there are now errors in the translation. Mm-hmm. So in the ideal world, the way it's supposed to be, your abstraction becomes anthropomorphized perfectly with no errors, right? And there's no disease. But the wicked ones that invaded that level of reality, the genetic invaders, they intentionally made it so that you don't get a perfect copy of who you are here. You would be like an Olympic athlete, and then you come to Earth, and if you look around, are most people Olympic athletes? Like, no, that's considered a very, very rare, whatever, a specimen of human to be in that level, or having a perfectly symmetrical face, or whatever. These are all characteristics that we all should have. And so it's also not based on karma or a meritocracy. That why do some people get a perfect translation from that level to this level? And the answer is because they make a deal, because they make an agreement with the beings that invaded, that they basically, like the Matrix, that guy in the Matrix, he wants to get a cushy gig and eat steak in the Matrix, where he says, I'll be complicit with your regime as long as you give me a nice, comfortable life. So in the comatose realm up there, think of it like a fairy tale, where somebody blew in magical fairy dust and the entire kingdom fell asleep and everybody's up there dreaming that they're here. People are offered options. And some people are like, no, I won't take that option, because it's basically like being complicit with monsters. They're like, no, I would rather die. Well, guess what? They're happy to kill you. Those people get killed. And if your body up there dies, your experience here ends, including any of the multiple fractal lives that we live here. So that's also important to understand. If you're here in this realm where death exists, and you are saying, I've done hypnosis or some kind of regression, and I can remember who I was in a past life, I've always said to everyone, these are concurrent lives. They're not past lives. It's not linear. And what you're really experiencing is a fractal array of who you are. So you are this person here. You have these personality characteristics. And then radiating from you, kind of like a dandelion head in every direction, you have these rays of fractal possibilities. Who would you be in the ancient Hindu empire? Who would you be at the time of the Spanish Inquisition? Like you and your personality characteristics, but not necessarily your body shape or your visage, but the you being expressed in these different ways. But so I validate that there are many, many experiences that we can have here, but focus on this version of self as the primary self, like the place where all of these the hub where all of these spokes connect, because this is the self that is actually experiencing the writing or the ascension, going from a slanted angle in your trajectory to going in a righted angle and making that reconnection. So whoever you were, whatever you were in a concurrent or past life or however many existences you've had here in the realm of death, put that just in the I did that at a different time and place category.
That's like the array, right? That's the dandelion head after a path has already been right.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And I validate that those experiences exist. And so here's the problem with language, right? So I came in directly from the abstract realm. And this is technically my first incarnation, right? That I'm all like, I'm so like, whatever, sometimes naive or just like, I like things that are very simple. I'm like, walking in the park is awesome. Like, look, there's a grass and a butterfly. Like, I'm really interested in all of those things because I haven't been through this 10 million times. I haven't watched 10 million TV shows. I haven't watched 10 million movies. But there are people who are here, and I didn't used to understand when other people would talk about someone being an old soul or a baby soul or any of these things. I'm like, what are they talking about? I didn't get it. And I had some friends that were all about incarnations and all these things. So I used to just nod politely, like, oh, okay, sure. Like when you're kind of like, okay, I didn't really get it. And now I get it much more. So yeah, I'm not the typical baby soul, but I am very much understanding that like a simple life, living in a village and like, helping your friends and family. That sounds really fun and interesting to me. And then there are people that have been here, they've been here long enough to get like, clarification. They're like, I want stuff and a lot of stuff and a lot of power. And I want to like, be big and strong and everything like that. And they're all in the pissing contests of ego stuff. And then there's people that have been here so long and explored so many of the fractal rays of their persona that they are over it. They're like, oh God, I don't need a Mercedes.
I don't know for sure, but I feel like that's me.
I agree, Gary. I would assess you in that level because it has to do with your priorities and your values of what you think is important in your life. Like, is materialism and commodification and ego, making your ego bigger, is that what's important, or is what's important self-cultivation, loving others, loving your family, helping other people? Like, it's about like this. Like, if your life is a painting, what makes a good painting? This is a good question for just an art video sometime. But like, what makes a masterpiece? So some people might say like, a masterpiece must be full of bright colors. And be like, no, a masterpiece can be full of subtleties where you're just like, hugging your cat and taking care of people that you love. So it's not necessarily being a billionaire and flying around the world. What makes a good life? Is it materialism, being a billionaire, flying around the world on a private jet? Or is it caring for your loved ones, having a beautiful garden, or even cultivating your body to its fullest extent, cultivating your creativity to the fullest extent? These are all to me, very valuable lives to be led. So I think when you get to that certain level of being done and over it with the external trappings of success, you develop a different value system of what is really important and focus your life, the creative energy on that. And I'm all about freedom. Like I'm about creative success, but if you ask me like, Aurora, would you either like to have your artwork in an art gallery and, be in a material realm, or would you like to have a state of total consciousness freedom where you can create with the paintbrush of your mind and, sing with the inner consciousness freedom. I would vote for consciousness freedom. Yeah. So you have to be ready to release the attachments of the realm of, we're in the material realm, materiality and materialism, like that Madonna song, Material Girl, the material world. You don't have to only be interested in diamonds, that it's really about the value is when you like create yourself. I'm trying to put it into the right words. Create a life that you're proud of, so that when you press pause at the end of your life and you look at all the scenes of the life movie, you're like, I'm proud of that life.
Yeah.
That's it. Your life is your artwork, as opposed to, I earned this money and got this thing, and that makes me a good person.
Yeah, it's a very funny distinction. I have a question from a viewer, if you don't mind taking a second to address that one. Martin DeGraff said, Aurora, you said that Atlantis was invaded just like seconds ago, quotation. That would explain that our lives here are concurrent. Oh, I guess it's not a question, it's just a comment. I think he's just talking about the idea of vast distances of time as opposed to what we call the present moment, which kind of contains all of that in itself as well.
Thank you, and hello, Martina, and thank you for tuning in. You're wonderful. It makes a really good point. It's not just that some people have been through the ringer on the wash cycle more times down here in the realm of death. There's also the sense of time dilation phenomenon, and that is happening because of light moving at different speeds. So we are consciousness, which is analogous to light or pure information, and this is like, I'm not totally validating Einstein as being correct on everything, but it's some of the ideas that Einstein talked about. Like, if I'm in a plane and I'm moving at the speed of light and you're down there, how is time passing for me versus how is time passing for you? So our realm here in Atlantis that got invaded has time passing at a different rate than time down here. 1 second over here can be 1,000 years over here. So you can understand the fairy tales or mythology stories that we have that inform us about this. So-and-so fell asleep in a fairy ring of mushrooms, and then when they woke up, they were still young, but everyone they knew had turned old. Or Rip Van Winkle, or any of those type of stories. They're folk tales to get us to have a little remembrance of what is actually happening here. Because I think this can also help many people to understand that you're not in a cruel, indifferent cosmos where it's like, oh, you're suffering for 26,000 years and no one really effing cares. Right. No, actually, they do care, but to them, it's been like 1 minute, and to you, it's been like millions of years of suffering. Mm-hmm. Time dilation phenomena.
Right, and it's necessary as well. I know when you look into the phenomenon of zooming in and zooming out, which that's time dilation as well, because even regular physics knows that larger bodies experience time slower, so to speak, and smaller bodies, as you zoom in, experience it faster. So if you want to contextualize your pain properly, just know that you are also the larger being for which your 80 years of suffering is like that, right? And maybe your 80 years of suffering here was like you getting a scrape on your pinky on the higher level, and it was necessary for you to have, or something like they tie in a correct way that your mind here can't necessarily comprehend very well.
Yes, I completely agree. And we are not separated from our higher dimensional, purely abstract body, or from our bodies in Atlantis. So what everybody needs to know is that if you're here and you're alive, your body is still in Atlantis, hovering between life and death. Like, not alive and healthy, like walking around, smelling things and having experiences. No, like lying in a bed, trying desperately to be alive, fighting for your life, and being subjected to various different, like, technological and pharmacological, whatever, medical experimentation. Like, so that's another thing to talk about. So for the whole time that I've been here as Aurora, I've had a very strange perception, because I know that I'm here and I'm physical and I can feel my physical body when I touch it. But if I close my physical eyes, I'm like, okay, my physical eyelids are closed. But sometimes I felt like I had 2 sets of eyelids. Like, my physical eyes are closed, but my other eyelids are open. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand or have the perspective to know what was going on. And I was also having a lot of medical crises in both places, because I share this openly. Like, here, I deal with seizures and different neurological deficits. And I didn't understand where that came from either, because I knew that I had brain damage, but I didn't understand what was the damage? How did this happen? It was damage to my body in Atlantis. But that wasn't, that language is hard because I'm an abstraction. I actually wasn't in that body. There's a different person that lived in that body, just like there was a different person that lived in this body before I came into it. So and this is sad, like this is all sad tales I have to tell you now, because what happened at the level of Atlantis, there's the regular invasion, crap heads come into your DNA, make you fall into a coma or a diminished mental state and shift your consciousness and your sensorium into this world, which is the world of death. That's like the primary invasion. But then on me, they did a secondary invasion, which was like a drilling into the head and removal of the personality. And that is what really killed this body here. And also like this stuff, like it took me a long time to be able to process it emotionally, and it was highly traumatic. Like for many years, I couldn't acknowledge it, think about it, know about it, much less speak about it. So it's very, very, like, I'm sharing it here, and I shared it like with patrons and people that I trust. It's more like I really want to inform people, like, how can I sense what's going on? None of this made sense to me for a long time because my body in Atlantis was profoundly damaged. And my damage here mirrors that damage. And I'm starting to understand that all of the diseases that are here are because people are being damaged and harmed at this level over here. So not at the level of pure divine connection and abstraction. That's like your blueprint body of pure potential where you are completely healthy. And how I've been compensating through this whole journey of being here as a walk-in is I do this maneuver that I call flying rainbow lasagna, this movement where I jump up and over the damage in Atlantis and the damage in this body, and I connect directly to the abstraction. So for me to do math and to do these, complex things that I do, I'm not doing the calculations with this flesh, and I'm not doing the calculations with my body in Atlantis. I'm doing the calculations with my body that is purely abstract, because that's the one that's, healthy and well-formed. So I want to affirm to everyone, like, you do have a healthy body, and I think it will be defined as higher self. I think that's how, like, in New Age words, I think that's how people would call it. But the other aspects of ourself, once we begin to become anthropomorphized, are damaged or degraded or distorted in some way. And the invasion that happened in Atlantis, it's basically like, you're going along as yourself and you say, I know who I am, I know who I am, I don't know who I am, and all of a sudden something else comes into you. You're like, I know who I am, but I don't know who you are. And, right?
And then there's a war, right, inside of your own body, right? Yeah.
Endless internal struggle. And I think that is what keeps us comatose or asleep. And I think that the invaders, they don't want us to die and they don't want us to wake up. They want the struggle to continue endlessly. And so when we incarnate here into this very distorted level of materiality, people in their genetic code have that struggle implanted in them. And it is understood as like wrestling with your internal demons or struggling with addiction or alcoholism or any of the lineage crapola, lovingly, that trickles down to us or, trickles into us from, other family members. And so I had to face all of those things in coming into this body. It's like cleaning up someone else's dirty socks. I'm like, oh, more dirty socks. More dirty socks. This person wore a lot of socks and never washed them and was here for many, many years washing her dirty socks. And finally, I have the perspective on it and everything, and to be able to be fully in this body where I'm the driver, where I'm running it, as opposed to residual consciousnesses that might be from other timelines or from another level of reality. Because all of those self-destructive tendencies that I named, like addictions and things like that, basically self-destruction, everything that keeps you from being your greatness, that's not really you. All of that stuff. And I know people do stuff where they identify with that and they say, it's my shadow, it's my this and my that. I am not a proponent for that type of work. And people, you can give me your feedback, because I know there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, new age people that are advocating for doing your shadow work. And it's important to understand both sides of, all sides of your personality. But I am big on understanding, whatever. Sometimes you might have psychopathic thoughts, like the tendency to want to kill yourself or others. And when that has happened to me in this body, I'm always like, what is that? That's like when I'm side-eye, like, That ain't me. I know who's me. That ain't me. Who's thinking that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're like, I just want to pick up a salad fork and stab somebody in the eye. Like, that is not me. It's very evident. But other people might erroneously and simplistically say, I must identify with that tendency to stab others with a salad fork and claim it as my own and heal it, blah, blah, blah. And that's not my way. My way is a dampening of the strings. So I have this is not a real piano. This is an electronic piano. And it's set up to sound like a violin. But if it were a stringed instrument, there's, that's the note that we want to play, but then there's all of the other notes that could be played on the other strings. You can dampen those strings. So in a piano, there's an actual mechanism for dampening the other strings, and just one hammer hits one string that you want to play. That is how I'm thinking of it genetically. That within us, we have all of the tendencies that you want. The beautiful music. Beautiful music. And then there's all the crap that you do not want. And instead of having to identify with it and love it and hug it and give it a cookie and give it a juice box, instead you can just dampen those strings. And it's literally like saying those strings do not vibrate in me internally. And here's the big takeaway that's new to me because I've been talking about that stuff for a long time. When you dampen those strings here in this body, it absolutely affects our experience in Atlantis. And these are mirrors or symmetrical experiences. So my big understanding when I understood it was a concurrent experience, not something that happened in the far distant past, is that what I do now here in this body affects this body. Because like a couple of weeks ago when I started to see things more clearly, I'm like, okay, so this whole entire realm here of death and disease is an aberration. This whole entire realm is a realm that's not supposed to exist. I've been here like for whatever, almost 20 years painting perfect paintings and working to heal my body into perfection. I'm like, and now this whole realm isn't supposed to exist. Maybe I should just eat cake and sit on the couch and not, perform all of these extraordinary efforts. I had to go through all of that until I came out the other side. And
eat cake and watch TV.
What we do here does matter. So don't just throw everything out the window and say, oh, it's an aberrant realm. Why should I even try? What we do here affects the realm of Atlantis because it's being mirrored. So that matters in terms of our sense of empowerment. Because think about it. You're in another world, comatose, and people are injecting you with crapola or putting tubes or things into you that might not be what you want to have happen. They're doing it to prolong your life, not to cure you. Big. And this is my skepticism, and you can understand it and take it with however many grains of salt you want, because some people might see those doctors and nurses and say, oh, whew, higher dimensional doctors and nurses are here to save me. I can just relax. Like, doctors got it under control. I'm just going to sit here and, try not to die. It's like, no. So that my whole thing is really the understanding that we need to be empowered in every way, including over our healing. And so in my body here, for many years, I experienced the timeline bleed through of I'm in a hospital and they're operating on me, and I could never and I also had neurological problems here. My life didn't begin to get better until I started to eschew all of their medical stuff and say, no, I don't want that. It's clearly not helping me. Stop. I want to just be healed with divine light, connected directly to God. And that's basically like saying I don't want any intermediary between me, the stick figure, and the shell, the godness that surrounds me. This is my big takeaway for anyone who's watching this video. Please let there be no intermediary, no distortion, nothing that has to come between you and the generative field that is God, that is all around you, that you should be able to connect with it directly. So you don't have to have the intercession of saints or a Jesus or a priest, and you also don't have to have the ascended masters, or even a sense of whatever, externalized spirit guides or anything like that. It ideally should be you connecting with your godness and then healing. And that's what I've been focusing on over the past 5 months or so. I've been really experiencing a wonderful accelerated healing where my neurology has been healed or is in the process of healing and improving, blood vessels, all the things that used to hold me back. And that's why I said, wait, it does matter. The life here that is improving with my efforts to heal here is healing and empowering my other body too. And so it does matter. And as I'm healing, I'm focusing on literally like pure sunlight. I'm looking out the window. Is it a sunny day? Like pure sunlight coming into me. So nothing that is personified. Nothing that is the sense of like a doctor that might have a white coat and give you pills or a surgery. Nothing that's like that. And so for many years, I used to think that when I felt two eyelids, another body, I thought it was my astral body. I thought that I was just projecting my expectation of who I am here with this cultural filter of like doctors inject you with things and this is what it's like to be in a hospital into a non-physical realm. I didn't validate that there actually might be the realm that we're emanating from in Atlantis, which is also a physical realm, where there are also doctors that are like allopathic doctors. At the doctors there, except it's just that their intention is not for you to awaken from your coma. That your intention is to remain in your coma and keep this world going as a coma dream.
Right.
And just what happened when they drilled in to the person that was in Atlantis, that was like the super takeover. That's like negative walk-in stuff. And you guys got to know about this. So in being here as a walk-in, I often had to say, like, don't worry, guys, like, I'm a positive walk-in. I sometimes people would be afraid of me. I didn't get that reaction until now I get that reaction. Because
everyone here is paranoid and suspicious of their neighbor, so it makes sense. Can I take a moment to pass on a question? Thomas says hello. A couple people are saying hello. And let's see. Pearl asks, what happens to me if one of my fractals die? Thanks. What do you think about that? As far as, I guess that's from the perspective of the body in Atlantis. Because when I did a session with Becky Barron, she told me when she looked at my higher self, you could call it, in Atlantis or in an egg-shaped thing that she's talking about. Whatever, it's all the same thing. But she was saying she sees 100 different, she says this Gary version is one of what she sees like 100 different segmented, compartmentalized realities, all blooming out from the same central self, so to speak. So I think what the question is asking is what if one of those rays like gets chopped or dies? What happens to the central self?
I'm going to draw your answer in the form. The answer will come in the form of a picture.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Going to the whiteboard. Okay. I have to clear everything out. All right. I'm going to draw this as best I can. Wait. And I'm going to use this. It's going to be so good. You're going to love it. Okay. This is one of those time vortexes, like the bottom part of my sculpture. And this area here that I am emphasizing, I should make it bigger. This is a membrane that I'm just making look like super fat and thick, but it's usually pretty thin. So what we're supposed to do is, it's a spiral path like this, but I'll draw it in a simplified way. We're supposed to go right up the middle without touching the edges, because if you touch the edges, it's like the game of Operation, and you die. But what happened to us in Atlantis was we're going up the middle like good folk. All of a sudden we get artificially, technologically zoomed over to the side. And then from there, now let me draw a tinier fractal version. Here is our entire earthly life. Do you see how it kind of exists like within the boundary of that membrane of death? Or you could think of it like that, or you could think of it, pointing in this direction, whichever way works. Don't take me too literally.
And also, if you started going what you consider to be up, then here on the side, like you're going to hit that side a lot sooner than if you were in the center or slightly off center, right?
Totally. You start out at an angle like this, and so then it takes all of your multiple existences to go, well, I'm supposed to go like this, no, 10 million wrong notes before you hit the right note. Wait, we'll return. Well, the right note would be going up this central core timeline in order to reach the culmination with infinity or God or divinity or however we would like to say that. So in this paradigm here, we all die many, multiple times within one incarnation, just like Groundhog's Day, living life, the adventure version of your life, the choose your own adventure version of your life, over and over and over until you finally find out what is the right note and how do I, find the exit out of here. So in the fractal lives that radiate from you, it is the same exact experience. They start off almost completely at an angle, and they die 10 million times, and each time they die, they learn a little bit more, and slowly, 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 they begin to right themselves until they're aligned with their divinity. And that means not only what it looks like is pointing down a target, like, I can see God and I'm going to God. What the anthropomorphic experience is of being embedded in time is every event in your life on that timeline that you're supposed to be on turns you into the best version of you. It turns you into your truest self. The peripheral lives, when you're at an angle and you're not in alignment, the events on those timelines do not add to your greatness. And so our consciousnesses from Atlantis were drawn down into this world, where we come from a world where everything that is placed in our path is something that is there to teach us, to guide us, to nourish us, and put us into our greatness. But in this world, if we apply those basic expectations to this world, pardon my French, you're totally fucked. Because the things that are going on here are not to lead you to your greatness. They are to lead you to your demise, to make you die and be degraded over and over and over again. So that's the real lesson that you have to learn in this realm, that the lessons of the other realm do not translate to this realm. You got to figure out the solutions to this level of the video game. And that's a very difficult learning curve, I think.
And I've mentioned before that we try to reverse engineer whatever the suppression techniques are, and so initially you would say, well, since my desires are not fulfilling themselves, then I must try to desire the opposite of what I want, and somehow I will get what I want that way. But I have found that that's not correct either, and the infiltration of these dark forces have gone very deep, and they are more closer to understanding what you truly want and need, or maybe they understand that you want to go to the divine, right? And they're just pushing against that rather than so much having tangible effects on what your persona self thinks it wants, right?
This world that we're inhabiting, where I'm talking on the computer with you, is not a perfect feedback loop. So this world is supposed to be a perfect feedback loop, where I emanate a desire, and it reaches the generative field around me, known as God, and shows up in reality as that sweater that I wanted. That's how it's supposed to be. But what has been happening is you might send out an impulse for a desired experience, and it is created, but like funhouse mirrors, or it is reflected back to you inadequately. So maybe the sweater would arrive like 50 years too late, or maybe it would be 50 sizes too small, or maybe it would be somehow just out of reach. Like, that sweater is great, but it costs $10 million and I can never have it. That it's somehow impeded. So our experience of being in the physical is not supposed to be about suffering. People say that here, like, to live is to suffer, and I put the pain in painting and all these things about being an artist. And I'm like, no, life is supposed to be about being in joy and going to the park and looking at grass. And people think that I'm crazy for saying that. But no, I'm coming from a different perspective. But I understand that here it's been so distorted. So what do we do? Sit on the couch and eat cake? No. What we can do is actually transform this realm. If you dampen the strings of crapola music in this body, you become more able, more capable to directly manifest or create the situations you want to create. That's what I do with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and what I teach and encourage other people to do, either using this technique or whatever is your particular technique. So this is to contrast. This is not like any type of the manifestation schemes that people have. There's lots of workshops for schemes, like, how do I get rich? How do I magnify abundance? It's all these keywords, and it's not anything like that, because none of this is about a quid pro quo. Here's something you guys need to know. People in this world that we're in, the realm of death, that get rich, sometimes get rich because they do a quid pro quo with someone in Atlantis who's actually turning and controlling the knobs of reality. Who actually determines where do you get born? What is your face shaped like? How tall are you? Do you have all of your arms and legs? Do you have money? What is your trajectory through life like? Will you be pissed and shouted upon, or will you be given golden opportunities at every turn? So people here who are like, I don't like my life, and they do something either like a black magic ritual or an abundance ritual, or they're going to burn a candle, whatever they're doing. What they're doing is connecting with crapheads in Atlantis and asking them to turn the dials of this reality for a slightly improved experience, and the crapheads in Atlantis will say, sure, what are you going to give to me? Gimme. And that's a quid pro quo. You're basically making a quid pro quo with demons. Sorry, I'm not trying to say if you're burning your herbal candles that you're contacting demons. Don't take me too literally. I know, I'm hyperbolic. But yes, you can still use wonderful scented candles in your bath. But I'm just trying to say, like, understand what the price that you pay when you ask for stuff. It ain't free stuff.
Yeah, it's something that I personally have always shied from, which is using anything external, and I have to explain what I mean by external. What I mean by external is anything that is conceptual, anything that is a physical thing I can grab and move. I only move in like the most subtle like realms that I can reach. So like when you see this happening, this is not like I'm not doing this. I'm like moving into this expression, and it's not. It's what do you call it? It's protected. It's not reachable by those who would wish to have Gary say this or move this way or do that or help my cause or this or the other thing, right? So it's not. I don't wish to do deals like that. I don't wish to use a bat to try to move the mountain. I wish to see if the mountain needs to be moved in the first place. And then I probably wouldn't use the bat because that's probably a very inefficient way to do it, if it was correct. Right?
And you can also use this understanding to not be unduly impressed by people that get things done through quid pro quo. It's not through their personal power. It's not like they actually trained for a marathon and grew the muscles and then made, the thing happen. They just were like to someone else, like, hey, like, carry me to the finish line. And the other person's like, sure, I'll do that, but then you give something to me. Like, that. So just don't be impressed by these people. Right.
And you can tell, any of the bozos in politics, they get up there. It has degraded itself to such an extent that what they're talking about isn't even relevant on the 3D level. It's almost like you have egos that were poofed up to this giant thing, and the egos are trying to yell at each other, and it just has no relation to even what the ego is trying to represent, the personality that it's trying to represent. It becomes really, really silly, and it hurts to watch it, and nobody's really paying attention anymore. That's why things like the coronavirus and the bang bang events like Matt talks about, and the everything that is spit out on the so-called world stage, it's not even a stage anymore. It's losing power, but people see it's not relevant to them. Like, how is that relevant to me as I'm walking out of my door to go buy groceries, or when I look at my bank account, how is any of this relevant? They don't talk about what a bank account is. It's an artificial river containment bank, right? There's banks on it. It's containing your consciousness. Do banks tell you that? They say, hello, Mr. Contained within my walls system, overseer. What would you like to do? No, they don't do that. They just say, hi, can I have your strawman name, and what would you like to do with these little units that you have in here? It's so far removed that I think people are not paying attention anymore, which is good.
You make so many good points, so I want to talk to all of them. The thing about being our attention being stuck in the matrix, like you said, the politics is not even interesting anymore. I completely agree. But that used to be the hand puppets, like this guy, we better fight about it, we better look about it, we better watch the debates. What is the latest thing to keep our attention, which is literally a part of our anatomy, focused here in this reality, as opposed to what if we focus that are not on this sensorium but on a different sensorium. That's it. That all of basically we as experiencers, when we are in this realm of death, are kept in a constant survival mode where you constantly have to be like on edge, looking around, what's going on, and then the bank account stuff is our present level of survivalism, like survival level
meter.
stuff.
It's like the meter that's saying
Totally.
If you're above 0, then you're barely surviving, but you're not surviving that well. Like if you're 10,000 above 0, then you're surviving fairly well, right?
And instead, it's not like we're walking around as hunter-gatherers being like, where's the food? Where's the food? Am I going to get eaten? Am I going to get eaten? Instead, we walk around saying, where's the money? Where's the money? Like, how can I get more money? And then also, like, how can I buy something on sale and not have to spend too much? So it's, and they do that literally, the creators of this world, like the little Matrix world, that's going to the shopping center and going to the grocery store is like you're shopping in the forest. And they know this about you. And so they're like, oh, we can't always have this be over here. We have to move. Like, you get bored. You get bored by going through the same routes all the time. So they have to change the merch around and shift things. So you have to look for it. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like you hide the cat treats because domesticated cats get bored if you just give it to them.
Right.
Gotta make them work for it because you understand, guys, you're in captivity. You're domesticated. You're in a cage. What would life be like if you weren't in a cage? Well, first of all, you would not eat physical food. You would eat pure light. And second of all, you would be 20 feet tall and you would be incredibly intelligent and incredibly healthy and vital. And also, you would feel great about yourself. You wouldn't have all of the ego issues that people have here in this downtrodden world where you've been pissed and shat upon your whole life and also came in with genetic invaders and addictions and tendencies that people here feel rotten about themselves and do so much to compensate for that. So now I want to just go into another point you made about politics, that those jokers, those suckers are so unbelievable and they're not even like real people that you can connect with. I am totally agreeing with you. So people are working the clone agenda. They think that there's a clone center or something like that. And I understand where that comes from because many people are feeling their otherworldly bodies and the medical procedures that are being done to our otherworldly bodies and how it affects our bodies here. Even to the point, like, if they rape that body, it affects this body here. If they stick things like a voodoo doll into the spine of that body, you have back pain here. But you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, we've looked at an x-ray of your spine. It is perfectly fine. So you're insane or something like that. So I want you to know that here, all of your diseases are emanating from the whatever insults and injuries that you're accumulating in another world. And that's all. So the thing that was done to me, so the drilling in, like the removal of personality or selfness so that something else can come inside. I'm not the only person that has been done to. I'm the only person that responded by doing this thing called flying rainbow lasagna. So up until this point, the options were they drilled into you in Atlantis and offered you options like, hi, would you like to be taken over by an evil monster? You could say, no, I'd rather die. And they'll say, fine, well, happy to accommodate you. And you're dead. And the other people might be like, oh, like fight against it or make some kind of a deal or whatever. And I didn't want to die and I didn't want to make a deal. So I flying rainbow lasagna, which is like Kobayashi Maru. It's like make a new option. Mm-hmm. But what they do when they take people over is they take people over. Like, this is horrible, and I become lighthearted, like inappropriate at a funeral. This is not funny stuff. This is horrible stuff. But all those suckers that you see on the campaign trail, they've all been drilled out in their otherworldly bodies. So a good person in Atlantis gets a disease and falls into a coma, is projected down here. And sometimes they even, don't struggle that hard and they come down here. But then on top of that, they'll implant or drill out even any sense of self that this body or humanness that might remain and make it a 100% co-opted container. That's who you see in politics. That's who you see at very high levels of business, like when we talked about rich finance nerds and things like that, all the Silicon Valley nerds and people that own whatever billion-dollar companies. Those are not humans. They have human-shaped containers, but they're actually they're 100% parasites. They're like a bag of bugs. There's no human left in there. I am sorry to be so disgusting in my description.
It's okay. It's okay. It's really once you find out anything, really, right? You find out anything about this world or this realm, and assuming you have not been fully co-opted, right? Or co-opted at all, really. Maybe some people have not been co-opted at all. I feel like every one of us has had some level of invasion to deal with. But once you become aware of the surface level of it, you can talk with somebody, and speak with them, and you just see. A couple words come out, and you see the whole story. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they're co-opted or not. It's not hard to tell. And if somebody's... the number one way to know is if somebody is speaking for something else, right? Like, I represent AT&T, and here is my stance within the company, and blah, 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 right? When you're doing that, then you are speaking as co-opted out blatantly. Like, you are saying, like, I am co-opted by this entity here, which I represent. Right? That's the more gross interpretation of it, but you can tell even within somebody if they have shifting persona identification within their little bag of marbles that represents themselves. You can even see that. You see them kind of like shifting, and the sense of self is not whole, and it's fragmented, and we slap a label on them. You're schizophrenic, you're bipolar, you're NPD, whatever, right? We have all these labels for them, but it all represents the same thing. It's like a very clear fragmentation, and you can't have a coherent, linear conversation with them because they're doing this. They're just like all over the place, and you're talking to one person, and then it flips to the next person, and then they all hide around the corner, and it becomes confusing. You can't really have a conversation.
Such a beautiful point, the fragmentation, and also the point of people being embodiment for corporations, which are actually disembodied demons. So, like, the beings that invaded us in Atlantis, why did they come inside of us? Because they are disembodied. They never had bodies. They used to use kind of technological bodies, but that it all got crapped up. And they used to live on Mars. They created what I used to call an artificial Merkaba, but now I am using language more like time machine that is crap. Crap time machine. Like, they did time machine that did not work very well. And I think that it was that moment of them turning on their crap time machine that dislodged them or made them need to have to find a place to be that's called our genetic code here, and that they're like, oh, good, we'll just come, like, oh, our experiment went horribly awry, oh, that's fine, we'll just hop into your bodies, that's fine, like, what's the nearest body, and, the convenience of that. And so when they need that, so corporate structure here is like a way for those disembodied beings to be powerful in the world of materiality without having a body. And when you work for AT&T and you believe in your corporation, you are literally like a minion for a disembodied being that has a corporation that's its body. That's not even a real thing, but it's legally recognized as a living entity here in this place. And yeah, there are other bodies that are like that too. Like if you are like part of like a military cult, or anything, like you identify with your school, like sing the school fight song, and I'm a this, I'm a Trojan, I'm a this. That any of those things, like you are basically giving up a fragment of your own self and your own totality and humanness, and filling it, like Gary said, fragments of something else that then dictates and controls your behavior.
Sorry for interrupting, but just
do it.
Contrast the feeling that you get, like, I get a specific feeling when I talk with you, Aurora, right? I know you are a containment of something or other, right? Just a contrast talking with someone you know and love and care about with, take any business, Starbucks. Go talk to that entity like, hi, Starbucks, I love you. Like, I love the way your products taste and blah, blah, blah. And can we go, like, have a walk down the sidewalk or whatever? Like, try to intimately interact with that. That's what people are doing when they go and cheer at games. Like, they are trying to get love from this overarching, basically it's a cup. It's not anything other than a fucking cup. Like, AT&T is a cup that a whole bunch of shit sits inside of. Like, all the employees are inside of that, and all of the phones that come out of AT&T are inside of that cup, and you're like, cup, like, interact with me, please, give me love, let's hang out, and stuff like that. And you can't do it. Like, you can't do that. So you're deluding yourself, even in this realm of illusion and delusion. You're deluding yourself even further that you can interact with that cup that's supposedly holding itself together, but doesn't hold itself together as good as Aurora does. Like, you're a contained self as well, but you can interact and you can see the sort of infinite nuance that's flying around when I'm talking with you, or you can't do that with AT&T or with Starbucks or with, Dunkin' Donuts or whatever.
Absolutely. And so let's say the corporation known as Aurora, I'm not only the CEO, and I know what's going on at all the board meetings, I know everything that's going down, even down to the mailroom. I'm not like one of these distant CEOs. So I'm talking about being in your body. So some people in this world, they're just like very much in their head, in their intellect, totally not connected to their body. They don't know what's going on the cellular level. They don't even know what's going on with their tummy. They're like, am I hungry? I don't know. Should I eat something? I don't know. Do I need to poop? Like, they have no idea what's going on, anything below their neck. And it's kind of like not encouraged to be really in touch with your body in this world. I have worked very hard as the owner operator of the corporation known as Aurora to be at the ground level. Like, I go into the factory, I talk to the workers, I put on a little hard hat, I say, how's everything going down here on the factory zone? And that's like checking in with your body and saying, how is my metabolism? And not just feeling like, oh, do I have blood gushing? Is there pain in blood gushing? But really asking your body and being a part of your experience here. So thank you. That's it.
Yes.
I could have ranted further. I stopped
okay.
myself.
We're getting a few comments. Let's see what's going on here. Co-opted container. Are all reptilians evil, or are there good ones? That was one question. There was another one that mentioned companies have more rights than people now. That's an important thing to know and discuss and have a stance about, I think.
Completely. It's one of the greatest challenges that we have faced here. The Trans-Pacific Partnership was basically, luckily, failed legislation, but if they had legislated that into existence, it would have meant that there would be corporate judges, corporate boards that determined whether countries were doing something illegally. So it would have been a totally power flip-flop, because it's supposed to be that countries and the laws that they make determine and limit what corporations can do, but TPP would have made it that corporations can limit and sue governments based upon what they have done. And if they made the corporations lose money, I'm very happy that legislation failed. But that's all in the rearview mirror. The other question I think is really salient here. Question of, are all the reptilians evil? Who's good? Who's evil? Let's talk exopolitics, because we're talking about the level of Atlantis, where a realm where we lived on Earth. We're Earthlings. We got bodies that are shaped like this, but are perfect and divine and very healthy and great. And we don't need no technology. You don't need an electric light to see at night. I don't need a sweater to stay warm in Atlantis, because you have a generative field around you. That is kind of like your own microclimate. You never feel tired. You don't need to have a mattress company making your beds for you because you don't sleep at night. Like, it's a very different level of reality.
No Tempur-Pedics?
Say it again?
No Tempur-Pedic mattress foam?
No Posturepedic pavilion. But you know what? You might want to rest or whatever. You might not always want to be walking or on the go or whatever. So, in your generative field in Atlantis, you might be like, oh, I'm feeling like I want to rest. And all of a sudden, there's the most beautiful, grassy, mossy place that is perfectly contoured to your body. Well, I think I will just recline right here. It's a different type of experience. And so there's not the sense here I have my couch. I want to wear my sweater and sit on my couch and stay warm and comfortable, because this is my small, frail human body. This is a different level of experience. So I'm painting that picture as the backdrop for, we did not use technology and we did not require technology, and we were totally connected to the divine. That's where we get all of our sustenance from. We didn't need that. And our whole journey of learning is about becoming a non-technological starship, all right? So if we wanted to go from place to place, it's by flying in your microclimate, using your Merkaba, using your real spirit vessel in order to fly in that way, not a metallic object. So to contrast, there are many, many technology-using space races, and some of them will present themselves as a friend. I aver, I am truly your friend, even though I flew here in a metal spaceship. And you have to understand that if they're using technology, first of all, they're not virtuosos. They can't run a marathon just with their own 2 feet and a pair of sneakers. They need some kind of an metallic exoskeleton to make them go. And that all of that technology is powered by victimized consciousness. Because I didn't get to that part, and everybody already knows this. It's not letting the cat out of the bag. The drawing off of our consciousness at a 90-degree angle into this realm of death, and all the walking on the wheel of life, and suffering, and death, and loss, and grief, and all of that stuff. That's all generative power for a big battery that we're within. So it's just episode of Rick and Morty, the Ricks must be crazy. If you want to check out that, I think it's highly available. The Matrix trilogy, there's so many good pop culture references.
I think there's a Matrix 4 coming out.
Oh my God.
That would be amazing.
It's called reality TV, and it's what we're experiencing.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of good shows out. There are a lot of good shows that actually embody, so to speak, what this reality actually is. Because I see it as levels of growth And that's why people have their brain exploding problems, because they don't start small and start working toward. There's too many levels. You can hop in on this conversation and understand anything what we're talking about if you have not at least begun to see that life is not as it's presented when you're born. Like, if you haven't at least gone down that a little ways, you won't understand anything of what we're talking about. Not a single bit of it, right? So, like, it has to be a step-by-step process, and it's something that as you're moving along, it adds onto you, like you are the central aspect, and these things, these knowledge bits add on, and you have defenses, you have ways to maneuver around challenging things that come in, right? You have to take it gradually, otherwise it will, like, your mind will explode. I had to go through a mind fragment. Like, when I took weed, it just poof, everything exploded, and I'm all over the place, and then finally I fall back into myself, and it's just total insanity. I had to take 10 years to integrate that one experience. And then I also have to contrast that with the idea that weed is just something that makes you relax and feel nice. Like potheads just, they say, what's up, man? Like, the whole thing that stereotype of weed had nothing to do with what happened to me when I smoked weed. Nothing, right? So, like, it's so much to understand, and this is not complicated stuff. This is what we are. It's who we are. It's what this place actually is, aside from the silly shit nonsense that comes out from all of our friends and family's mouths, and from the TV, and from the everything. Like, it's inside of you. It's not out there. Like, you have to find ways to bring all of this discordant nonsense into cohesion, because it is actually cohesive on the correct level.
I want to go in so many different directions. I want to talk about your some surmises or whatever about NPCs and about people being not real people, and that relating to, again, Rick and Morty, the idea of unity, like a unity consciousness. There's just one giant parasite brain slug that is kind of like controlling all these different people that are like empty characters in life, and they're empty because they're like not fully present, not fully being the CEO of their own company, of their body. So it's very easy for something else to just subliminally or supernaturally make them, say the things and do the things that are, oppressive to others, or even just basically through acting through unconsciousness. But you also brought up some pop culture things. I want to talk about other like books and movies that have explored this topic. But then I also just want to wrap up that thought about technologically using space aliens, that yellow caution flags on any space species, non-Earthling species, that comes to you and says, I use technology, but I'm really, really your friend. Yellow caution flags. And I usually determine friendship based upon how someone treats me. Like, even if you've been a total asshole to other people, let's see how you treat me. But I will tell you, yellow caution flags on any of these space species, because I'm a space species that does not use technology, and my value system is it's about unconditional love, and my value system reflects that. But if you're using technology, it's a little bit like letting children play with firecrackers, that these consciousnesses that are not yet supposed to be flying all around through time and being active as participants at that level, they're punching way above their weight class and making a horrible big mess of things. And then sometimes they'll come along and be like, I made a horrible big mess. I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and dive in and fix it. And they have a good intention to fix it, and they're still making a horrible mess. So that's why huge, I'm pushing them away. Yellow caution flags. And because also remember yourself as a virtuoso, that you don't actually need no stinking technology to get stuff done in Atlantis. So if they're not as good as you were, like they're not even as good of a musician as you are, like why would you want them to be running your band or playing music with you? So thank you. Wrapped up that. Good. Didn't want to leave that hanging. Some of the shows that I don't watch that much TV, but some of the shows that I'm really impressed with, Netflix has a show called Russian Doll. And it bypassed me for a long time, and then I finally watched it. It was so worthwhile. So time well spent. It's basically about a person who's in their afterlife, time looping in their afterlife, and starting to recognize that is what's going on. And it's also all about, coming to inner real, the way that you, like Groundhog's Day, we mentioned that, the way that you're set free from this looping experience is to have the inner realizations that you need to release the attachments that have been holding you there. So whatever, they can be psychological or family lineage stuff, like traumatic. They can be lineage stuff. And another really good show is called The Good Place. And at first I watched this show and I was not that impressed because I thought it was just insipid, like a stupid sitcom type of thing. And then I started to recognize, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's all The Good Place.
Okay.
It's all about a group of humans who find themselves in an afterlife. And they're told it's the good place. And they keep on having all of these experiences that just don't feel like so good. And then it turns into, there's a lot of really good conversation there about philosophy and morality and ethics and what it takes to be a good person. And I watched, I watched that show, kind of binge watched it up to the point that it's on now. And they get to the point where they're kind of like in a heavenly reality. I'm not spoiling it for you. And they recognize that if you're just in this, stupid heavenly reality where everything is always fine, it's almost like a lobotomy that, they would want to have, whatever, they want to have the capacity for, let's say, like, a full culmination point instead of just, being in a face and in a body and doing everything you possibly can ever do in a face and a body. They wanted a doorway that went to infinity. And so they kind of create that. It's a good show. It's worth watching, I think.
Okay. Well, we haven't had Netflix yet because it costs money and we're not the greatest detractors yet. It's coming. We're getting better. We're getting better with this silly, pretend energy representation system. But thank you. I wanted to say, what did I want to say? Oh, I wanted to just share a story real quick about our adventure. Do you want to say hi? Andrea is here on the side.
Good to see you. And I enjoy the artwork that you're making and sharing.
Oh, thank you. Can't wait to get back to the painting soon.
We're pushing for our own place. We've been in Oregon. We've had a time here, and we been all over the place. But we're in a sublet right now, and we're looking for an apartment. Right. So yesterday we did our first look. We went to this actual place, and it was in Oregon City, and it's this like podunky little place. There's one parking lot, and then there's an array of apartments around, the central parking lot, and it looks like it's just one story, little shack type thing, little shanties, like 1 through maybe 15 or something like that. And we went to the door, and the door had on it was number 11, so we're like, oh, 11 is cool, it's a nice number. But the door had like, a note on it, right? Everyone had signed it, and it was like, rest in peace, wish you, thanks for hanging out, or whatever. What did it say? What were some of the...
One of them was like, we all lost out in
this. We all lost out in this, and so we were like, whoa, what's this on the door of the place we were about to check out? But we had the code, and there was a lockbox, and we walked on in there, and like, there's stuff, like there's computers, there's bean bags, there's books, there's someone's backpack, there's alcohol, all in the kitchen, there's everything in there. And there was a guy next door, Ricky Bobby. His name is Ricky. Joker, called himself Joker, but he's out there like working on random knickknacks, and he's like, yeah, the dude killed himself like a week or two ago, and he had all kinds of guns in there. And Ricky Bobby was trying to portray that this guy was like a terrorist. His name was Amir, and he's like, I don't know how much to believe Ricky's story, but he was like, I think he was sent here, being trained to go shoot something up or whatever. And like, we were like flabbergasted that was the situation. And
all of his stuff was still there.
All of his stuff was there, the 2 computers. And the rental company didn't say anything about it. It was an automatic thing that they set up so we could go in there, and they didn't respond when we told them, like, yeah, someone died in there 2 weeks ago, and his stuff is still there. There wasn't any police or FBI or there's nothing. It was just, and of course, like the tendrils, the mental tendrils of that place were like, this narrative is trying to happen, and we're like, oh God, we've been through enough.
So much.
We don't need this. Or like, bye, Ricky. Thank you. For
totally.
maybe we'll be neighbors. Maybe not. That was insane.
Send his ghost on, burn some sage. I don't even know. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Andrew's like, maybe if I clean this place and sage it for 2 weeks straight beforehand, maybe we could
Even then, though.
But then, no, we don't need to do that. We're not in that situation anymore. We can choose. We had to keep telling ourselves all these things. And it's just
I would definitely say that would be a living space for someone far less energetically sensitive. Because someone who does not believe in the afterlife, an atheist, a hard science person.
Right.
Oh my God, it was a lot.
And there are real estate laws. I know if you are buying a house, it must be disclosed if somebody died in that house.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's similar laws about renting a place, but there should be some renters' rights to know about that. I'm happy you guys didn't get effed.
They didn't. I mean, we both sent emails. I was like, did you know someone died in here a week ago and all his belongings are still in there? But they didn't, nobody has responded from the company. So, maybe, I don't know. Very, very strange. And then the guy, Ricky, was like, yeah, Oregon City's haunted and, we have all kinds of crazy shit happening all the time.
Well, I think all of these things that are weird that happen to us, and things like Mandela effects or personal Mandela effects, at best they are like alarm clocks. Like you hear a beeping noise and you think I'm just gonna stay here and everything's fine. It's like, no, that is an alarm clock in another world that is telling you wake up, you're comatose,
yeah.
Kind of shaking by the shoulders. So I feel like when we see breakdowns of the Matrix, or for loose language, the world around us, and we see well, that doesn't make sense and that doesn't fit together, and why is this happening? It seems almost like a script, like a setup. That what you described to me sounds almost like a prank or a setup, kind of talking behind my head, these two young people think that they're gonna rent this place.
Yeah, like there's a voiceover in the back, oh, they want to go rent an apartment. We have just a place. This guy just killed himself. All his shit is still in there. They already know that they need to deal with things happening, so they'll be fine with it because the price is cheap. Get them in there, and we'll have all kinds of fun with this narrative.
It reminds me of the show The Good Place, where it's oh yes, we're going to have a party featuring your greatest fears and paranoias. It's that doesn't actually sound so good. Yeah, hopefully all of these things, when you see the script so obviously in the Matrix, like you were talking about Matt, Quantum of Conscience, am I saying his channel correctly? Because I think he puts forth very worthy information. And what's Becky's channel that people can check out that too? Both two good people, two good thinkers, I think. It's not a blanket endorsement, but just they're good thinkers.
Right. Becky's YouTube channel is... It was something different than... Yeah, Matt is just Quantum of Conscience. He's really easy to find.
And he's been talking about reality breakdown for years, and doing his best to examine it. We're down here in the fish tank, so it's hard to have the perspective. But a friend of mine called me on the phone this morning and shared with me just a really startling story, and I'm like, I'd like to share that anonymously with other people today. So she was talking with her mom on the phone, and I think her mom is elderly and lives back in Europe, and my friend lives here. And she's talking with her phone and chatting about the weather and things like that. And she said that her mom repeated, in a time loop, said the same exact thing about the weather with the same exact local intonation. And then it happened several times in the conversation. My friend also does things like flying rainbow lasagna, and it lives far away from 5G intentionally and is very perceptive, and she knows about reality not being real. So this was not a surprise to her. She's intentionally dancing towards freedom, but she was trying to tell me her mom, she said to her, I think we're having a bad connection. Why don't you call me back? So she calls her back, and then the same thing happens. But she actually said to her mom, hey, do you know that when we were just talking, it sounded like you were repeating, and it sounded like you kept saying the same thing over and over, and her mom had no memory or awareness of it. And her mom doesn't have dementia or anything like that. And so then it happened several times again in the conversation. And so finally my friend was just if we have too much phone interference, I can't hear you properly, we'll talk a different time. She kind of played it off legit. But when that happened to her, she was like, wait, this is just like that scene in The Matrix where you see the cat goes by 2 times and you're like, wait, it's a glitch. Now's our chance. And so she took that as you're in a lucid dream. Poke, you're in a lucid dream. Be awake, be lucid. So in a lucid dream, you realize that you're dreaming and then you take control. So I don't want people to just do the first half without the second half. You got to realize that you're in a matrix. Realize that you're in a created world. But then take control. So don't just say, yes, I'm in a fake created world, but the Illuminati run everything and they're programming reality down to the moment, and so I'm just going to give up my power. That's the false contextual narrative chunk that we get when we come here. And I don't think it's accurate. It's all the disempowerment agenda. So the real answer is that we are the script writers. We are creating reality here, and that we even create these little, winks to ourselves, pokes to ourselves to say, wake up, because this is too bizarre to be a regular world. And,
right.
Whatever. I've known that this is a self-created, fantastical realm since I walked into this body, and 19 years or so ago. And it took me, when I first came here, first of all, I tried to eat nothing but sunlight. That did not work. But then I also didn't understand other things, like that your body could be damaged, or that you could be risking things. I didn't understand any of that for the first couple of years that I was here. And I walked around doing a lot of things that people I would consider very risky or dangerous. But I'm just la la la, nothing can hurt me. And it wasn't until I stubbed my toe really hard and I broke my toe that I was like, wait a minute, my toe can break? I thought this was a dream. I thought this was a fake reality. What are you talking about, toe break? And then I'm like, well, okay, if the toe can break and I can feel pain and my body can be damaged, then I have to act as if this is a regular reality. And P.S., this is taking a long time. I'm going to have to get some furniture too. So that's been my trajectory here.
Yeah. If we could take a moment to mention Becky Barron's channel I posted it in the chat, but it's Find the Light. It's all lowercase. I don't know if it matters if it's lowercase or uppercase, but Find the Light space RB, probably for Rebecca Barron. That's her YouTube channel, and I reached out. I only did one show with her, and the techno little interference minions were trying to stop that big time because she was talking about the same thing we're talking about here, which is Atlantis, or what she calls the egg. So we didn't have a very good quality show, but the information was good. So I'm going to try to have her back on for basically segment 2 of Becky Barron live, like we're doing here, which this is turning out fantastic. So now that I have this capability while I'm in fast internet land, which I am here, I'm going to keep trying to do that. And I'm going to try to have Lauda on as well before we move out of here into our new apartment. So word to the wise, try to keep tuning into all of these on Sundays, perhaps other days. But yeah.
Well, Matt, you just meant fast internet world, getting an echo.
Yeah, the internet's probably trying to mess up right when I'm talking about it fast.
So funny. So I want to bring up 5G, because when my friend was telling me this morning about her mom and time looping, at first I thought, oh no, is your mom like some 5G controlled zombie automaton, and some AI is just speaking through her? I wasn't sure if that's what's going on. So when I've been understanding about Atlantis, and I used to think about it as something in the far distant past, I would say, yes, they turned on a mind control in Atlantis that was so all-pervasive you couldn't even think that you were a mental slave. And that level of degradation, that destabilization internally in our DNA dance, destabilized the entire planet to become tilted on its axis, which is what we presently experience. Mm-hmm. So I used to think about that in antiquity terms, but now I think about that as concurrent, like it hasn't happened yet. So please understand that the 5G that is being turned on, it is a similar level of fake Merkaba that is an external stimulus control system to control the internal wetware technology that has been implanted in us to control your thoughts and perception with AI, to an even more startling effect than it's been controlled up until this point, because we've been in this illusory world, what the yogis of the Far East call Maya and illusion. So those guys only had to break through one layer of illusion. They had to be like, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to fast, I'm going to live on a mountaintop, and then I'm going to be able to say, this world is fucking fake. And they didn't have 5G. They didn't have nanotechnology in them like we have inside of us. And so we have to break through 2 levels of reality. And big takeaway here, language and verbalized language in our thought structure is not our original thought structure. That is part of the bringing us here into this realm. That language is so inherently flawed, and using it as our internal thought structure. How do you think in your own mind? If you think with language, it means you're part of that original AI that's trying to take us over and bring us here. And then that's why language-based thoughts are vulnerable to, let's call it hacking, by 5G nano wetware. So I've been advocating to everyone, like, get out of your mind. Get out of your mind and go wild. Meaning, don't listen to verbalized thoughts. What I do is do the type of thinking that I can do, like when I'm playing music, or when I'm doing artwork, or when I'm doing my flying rainbow lasagna dance. I don't think like, move your elbow, move your leg, hop in and out of reality. Like, no, I just do it without thinking. So I try to do as much non-thinking as I can. And in terms of go wild, I do not mean become violent. I mean become non-domesticated. Even though we might be in captivity, think of someone like a wild tiger or whatever, baboon or something like that, that you were put into captivity, but you are still a wild animal. And you know something? Like, bite your captors. Like, don't make it easy on them.
Exactly. Yeah, if I could talk about the thought that you're speaking of, when I started meditating, I had to essentially get out of the mode that allowed me to be attacked from all angles, right? So I went and Googled, like, whatever my angst was, which was basically everything, like, fuck everything and leave me the fuck alone, like, give me a second to breathe. So I found meditation and I started practicing that, and it didn't take too long to find that space, which is like the non-dual. It's the 0 point, and that space there is no speed to that. There is no time delay. It's instant, and it knows everything. Okay, so I found that I have access to this at all times. Okay, it's not something special. It's what we all have, and it acts as the housing or the space for this type of manifest and thoughts and all these things to happen without being attacked by everything from the side, right? So if you stay current, if you stay very present, then you see language not as conceptual. It's not as conceptual. It's like if someone is saying, the warm sunlight was playing upon me, you don't even focus on the words. You literally feel warm sunlight. It's like you bypass the conceptual intermediary link, right? That's what our actual origins are. It's instantaneous communication, and the language overlay is almost like send it to the address of, Aurora is at blah 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 street and zip code is 937 blah blah blah. That wording right there represents the language that we're using to try to connect the two parties, and that is not exactly necessary, so to speak, to connect that way anymore. You can bypass that, and you can get into the level of clear, instantaneous communication.
Totally agreeing. And a big thing I need to talk about in the world of Atlantis is that our mode of communication is through natural telepathy. So this is based purely on a bridge of love, and love is literally like a tone, like a type of music that you make. So instead of, this is how we would communicate in Atlantis. Instead of me flapping my moving mouth parts and making the small mouth sounds, I would connect my mind with your mind on a bridge of love. And I would send out all of the intention for meaning and salience that I would ordinarily laboriously have to put into words, and like not to complain or whatever. Part of it is neurological damage, like the speech centers of my brain were damaged, but also part of it is the clunkiness of language, that it is so hard to connect my brain, like my thoughts, to my actual mouth and words, and like choose the right word and put them in the right order. Oh my goodness, so difficult. I when I first came here, I just wanted to be able to like just communicate with pictures. I would just draw pictures and show them to people. But then people didn't understand what I was talking about, so I had to kind of learn how to be articulate about this. But that is not my usual way of communicating. So in another world, and as we connect more with that body, we're recreating that here. So we can do this. We can, and I should have talked about this. I do this every day. I do flying rainbow lasagna. It's an inner and an outer movement, like on both levels. And I connect with a whole group of people. There's lots of people that are here doing this dance for their own version of it. And none of it is a verbalized communication. It is all nonverbal. And I might send out an email blast to all of the people that I'm connected to telepathically on that bridge of love. And sometimes the email blast is because I just had an insight or something that's going on. I'm like, oh, wow, that's what's going on. I want to tell all of the other cells in this body what's happening. And we're supposed to be like a larger body. You know how in your body you have cell-to-cell communication. The cells are not supposed to fight with each other. The cells are actually supposed to communicate and even share things and help each other out and do stuff good for one another. That's what we're supposed to be doing here.
We're supposed to share? So, what are you talking about, Aurora? What is this silly concept?
The 5G work and the language and the commodification that we've been taught here is the antithesis of that real telepathy on a bridge of love. That people here might never experience real telepathy, or maybe only in great moments of intimacy with a lover, or something like really special moments. That is supposed to be your 100% existence, and it's very much like whatever. Like, you don't have to have your whole life open like a book, even though that's what it ends up being. Like, you can have private aspects. Like, you don't just have to show everything, but it's also very much like total connection. Here, people hide behind language. They hide behind many masks. Most people here in this realm of the dead are like several layers removed from what you're actually connecting with.
Right.
But in that level of reality, you're connecting very directly with the people that you're talking with and sharing with. And I'm recreating that here with these mental flying rainbow lasagna bridges with people. And that's good, because like you said, when you do that, it breaks through these social programs that are basically not to care about others, to only focus on yourself. Like, you kind of, in the game of musical chairs, like, you're going to be screwing somebody else. Like, let's face it, you're sitting down, you're comfortable, you're screwing somebody else out of an opportunity. That's the commodification. Like, that's capitalism. That's the idea of like, I'm going to go out there and get that job, but then it means that guy doesn't get that job, and we'll have to kind of be that way. Or I'm going to sell that painting, but it means that guy doesn't sell that painting. It doesn't matter. I'm fighting against you.
But that guy deserves it because he's not working hard enough. Like, it's the type of mentality that has, it's a kindergarten level version of understanding of why the poor are poor. Rather than, there are so many intelligent ways to understand why poor people are poor, namely, the number one being that the rich people need them to know that they're rich. Like, that's the most basic understanding in this crazy world of extreme polarities, why there need to be poor people. Rich people won't know they're rich if there's no poor people. It's very simple. Like, we have to really get the rich person to understand that at some point their shit needs to balance out, and they need to come down a little bit to the level of the poor person, so the level of the poor person can come up a little bit, and then the whole thing achieves a little bit of balance, rather than just stay like up in your throne where you're probably scared anyway that the poor people are going to rise up and come take it. So like there's angst on both sides of that polarity.
In the paradigm that we are exiting, the people that had more, that are up, high on a golden toilet, they have more because they made a sweet deal in Atlantis. They gave up part of their soul and part of their humanness and part of their integrity to get born into that position. And many of the people that are born into profound poverty and remain there are there because they are being artificially suppressed, because they are fighting against the consciousness invader. So if you align with the agenda, if you say, I salute our new alien overlords, give me a sweet gig, they'll be like, yes, here's your golden toilet. And if you say, no, screw you, get out of my body, I will fight against everything I have, you will be born as an untouchable in India, and your life will be literal shit. Like, they will do that to you. And that is not the lords of karma. That is not because you're a bad person and you deserve shit. No. That is not, we can clearly see the millionaires and billionaires in our world who are profoundly flawed people. They're not in their position because they did good. They're in their position because they actually compromised themselves. So that many people now understand it. They describe it as an inverted world. In an inverted world, like the people that are supposed to be up here are actually down here, and that is not the way it's supposed to be. But let's talk about like moving out of that context where we know everything is screwed. Is it possible while we're here to change that context? Because I'm kind of like, just ditch money. Like, we just shouldn't have money, and we should have something completely different. That's what life was like in the purely telepathic realm that I'm describing of how it's supposed to be. If we're still using money or some kind of system of value or whatever, is it possible for us to flip the switch and have it be that truly good people who truly, are worthy and responsible are given the resources, and then people who are horribly self-destructive and irresponsible are given minimal resources and minimal opportunity to, harm society? Like that, if we're in this realm, that would be something to work towards.
Right. and I don't think it's necessary to. It's more necessary, I think, to be patient with ourselves because it's tricky. Like it's tricky to try to have a voice in this place. It's tricky to actually be heard. It's tricky to not be suppressed. It's tricky trying to sort of wade through all of the paradoxically flipped value structures. So, and then it's just like it's a lot. It's a lot, even just mentally, to conceive of what actually has happened. So I think to let people know that it's fine. Like if you feel insane, it's fine. This place is fucking insane. There's nothing sane or normal about it. Like all your family seems to have turned into aliens and they don't connect with you anymore. Well, yeah, because they got invaded. You know, like they're not the same people anymore. Something else is speaking through them, and there's a rational explanation for all of the weird-ass wonky shit that you see when you look out there, so don't feel bad that you feel insane. It's insane. Like, the fact that you've maintained some mental anything is that's a good thing. That's like wow, you survived nuclear war internally, essentially. Like, don't Debbie Down yourself because you feel like shit. Like, be happy that you maintained something throughout the biggest invasion of consciousness ever to occur anywhere. That's what this is.
When my friend called me this morning and told me about her experience with time looping, the first thing I did, I was like, you are not insane. Because I also understood that there's this inner defense mechanism of the alien implant that when you start to see what's going on, it'll say to you, oh no, you're just insane. You're not ascending. You're not getting closer to divinity. You're not seeing through the matrix. You're insane. And if there were only one person having the experience, then you might truly doubt yourself. But I'm having this experience of seeing through the matrix, or let's say recognize the fakeness of reality, and even being able to embroider it. Like, I'm like, okay, this is a fake reality. Like, let's make something fun happen. And I do that, and I've done it. And other people have done it too. But like, my experiences sometimes involve TV shows. Like, I would be like, well, wouldn't it be funny if this happened in this TV show? And then it actually happens. Yeah, so that's just briefly. Another show I watched, but I only limited, provisionally recommended. Not that I'm such a TV freak, but this show called The Magicians. But it has a lot of magical violence in it, which is why, like, if you're not able to stomach that, don't watch it. But there are some good parts to it. So that was, whatever. One of the things that was, there's actually good stuff in there on time looping too. I'm almost about to lose my thought, but I don't want to lose my train of thought.
You're giving us good shows to watch, so thank you.
Yeah. See, I think that the shows are good at giving us, like a common language. Mm-hmm. I can say, oh, it's just like the time loop in that show, and then you understand it. So yeah, or like whatever, going through a dimensional portal and you end up in, Fillory or something like that is what's going on.
Have you watched The Expanse? Have you heard of that show at all?
No, I just got recommended it though.
That show, we're in the middle of, we're coming to the end of it, but everything is in there. The what we know as black goo or the mind virus, they call it in there. What do they call it?
Crap. Forgot. The blue stuff.
The blue goo. What is it called? My brain just does not remember concepts. Like I train myself in meditation so well that it's like fuck all concepts, fuck these containers. We're not gonna do it. No. But it has everything in there. Like it has the upside down way that people treat each other, and it has the whole world takeover, the whole universe takeovers, the politics. It's very very deep. It's the Expanse. Like, this is the Expanse. We are in. It's expansive, even though this place feels like the biggest constriction that you possibly could have. Like where we come from is literally that expanse. It's like if you can imagine yourself exploding into and becoming the full entire galaxy cosmos and like feeling all these little bits of light everywhere. Like that's what you are. Here is that contracted, like contract everything into, oh, now I'm the body, But really, like, the body is just a bunch of stars and stellar network systems anyway. So, like, it is that whole, like the essence that is our personality flows and interflows between levels all the time. Every second, it's going like that, right?
Completely. So the invasion of your physical body is the invasion of your own private cosmos. Mm-hmm. And the healing of your physical body, of the parasites, is the healing of your personal cosmos. And you mentioned black goo as part of the narrative structure of that fictional reality, black goo is playing in a huge part in the 5G, the AI agenda. And I mean, lots of people talk about this, and I've been talking about this, for a long time too. But now, in light of what it was happening in Atlantis, you got invaded. The invasion brought you into this level of consciousness, making you think that you are a mortal being that needs coffee and toilet paper. And when you get implanted with their 5G virtual reality, then what happens? You lose your physicality, your organic cellular aspect, which is miraculous. Like Gary, you said it, like you contain a cosmos, you have stars inside of you. But the AI technocrat agenda is to get rid of that level of your being and just take your mentality, like your intellectual quotient, and put that into a virtual reality that it then can continue to run for however many long, you can tell by my voice, so long, just like run you for forever. Yeah. But it's like running an empty automaton because there's no, like soul, there's no juiciness, like there's no Jimi Hendrix left in there. It's like dead and soulless. There's nothing in there. So I think that's the agenda, and that they could just keep on bringing you further and further away from your true divinity, like endlessly, but in a technological container. But that's not an inevitability, but that's the agenda of the black goo. So of the people here in this world, the black goo is this, it is I should mention, a programmable substance. So that means it's like a thumb drive. So first of all, if someone just gave you a thumb drive, would you put it into your computer? No! So if someone gave you programmable stuff, should you just put it into your body? No! But people have in various different forms. So in our world here, the inverted world, the first people that got approached about this black goo awesome pyramid scheme are the people at the top of the pyramid, right? Like the fancy folk. They're like, here, for only $1 million, we'll give you this, and it'll make you young forever, and you'll be smarter. Like the bionic man, it'll be even better. My cultural references are all from the 1970s, but you know what I'm talking about. That it'll be great, right? And so the celebrities are all like, oh, black goo is so great. Like there's music videos, like Lady Gaga is swimming in black goo, Billie Eilish. These people aren't people anymore. They are filled with this invader. But then there is what is sprayed on all of us. And also, so that black goo that is programmable, that the elite people got millions of dollars for, that is not cellularly destructive. Like that will go around vital areas, vital structures in the body, and actually create kind of like a fake fascia, like the fascia that holds in your muscles. It does make them better and well formed. It might hold them together, in a sense of longevity. Mm-hmm. But then there is the degraded black goo that the rest of us, the innocents, that we are not complicit with the agenda. We get sprayed with it in the fucking chemtrails. And that is programmable matter that is not programmed to go around vital obstacles, to go through vital obstacles. It's like, oh, this cell membrane is here. I will punch through it. I will cause great harm and destruction as I create my artificial neural network in this organism. Do you understand? So that's the difference. There are some people in this world who are embracing black goo. They are embracing 5G. They think 5G is my friend. Technology is my friend. It's going to make me smarter, faster, and younger, and have bouncier curls. And then there are people that are like, no, keep technology away from me. And then they use the technology to harm and degrade. Those are the people that are suffering with Morgellons and with whatever biological reactivity you have against being implanted by whatever crapola.
I had to look up the name. It's called protomolecule. That's the name of the virus in The Expanse. And I wanted to say hi to Omar. He finally woke up from his nap and decided to join us, and he's very surprised that we're still going. I think we're, almost 2 hours in?
Almost 2 hours. It's been a marathon.
And we have 41 people watching, so this is turning out very, very nice. So thank you everyone for watching and participating and interacting. This has been fun. I'm happy. I'm happy that I somehow had the idea to try to see if I could do live with you, because I've always wanted to do that, but I'm not technologically literate. I don't give a shit about the technology other than I like connecting with people through it, and I'm very lazy in terms of I don't like going and understanding how this stupid thing connects to that stupid thing to make this thing. I don't like it, so I'm happy that I had some whiff that said, hey, try to do live one more time. With you have OBS, it's streaming software, you have YouTube, maybe you can somehow make them link together, and it was very simple. It was just paste a stream key and very simple. So I'm happy.
I'm you did it too.
Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. It'll be very, very simple.
I feel like this is the redemption of technology. Like, we're here in this benighted realm, and we should be able to be purely telepathic, but we've got all of this technological crapple that's making it very difficult to do so. So let's use the technology to be able to talk with one another and encourage one another towards freedom. And, we're definitely doing the spiritual weightlifting. Like, if you can be telepathic and maintain your sense of self amidst all of this crap, you definitely have built the muscles in the structure to hold yourself together. You're a cohesive unit. Like, you're doing good.
Yeah. And don't, like, there's a mindset that wishes to say there's some bad guys and there's some agenda and there's some, it's not like that. Like, reality is infinite, okay? Like, there are, like, factions that are trying to achieve certain things, but it's not all about, like, ooh, Gary is doing something, so let's go attack. It's not like that. It's like levels of noise or something. If a little bubble over here is going, it's blooming up somehow, then everything around is like, oh, there's something happening over there. And then you get some guys that are like, I don't like what they're doing over there, and they do their thing. And there's some guys that are like, oh, I like what they're doing over there. Let's help and let's stop these guys from interfering. It's more like that than it is like, oh, this person is doing something bad, so I'm going to target them as a. It's not like that. It is actually more balanced than a lot of us think. That like to stay in victimhood.
I agree. I want everyone out of victimhood, but I have to say that the intelligence agencies, if we want to just totally, whatever, do this on YouTube.
Just say hi. Hi CIA, hi FBI,
I
hi
know, right? All of those guys that are in intelligence and in surveillance are guys who were complicit with the invaders in Atlantis, and many of them have been drilled out. So that just needs to be understood. Like, they are the keepers in the cage. They are not caged themselves. And in terms of entering into this matrix, they enter into this matrix very intentionally. Not like the innocents, us, who are sucked down here and would, fight against it with all of our might. They're like diving down here. And for them, it is a one-way journey. Like, they're never going to go in reverse. They're never going to go back towards energy and divinity and all of that. They're endlessly going towards entropy. So for them, like, it's a one-way ticket and they ain't getting out of here. But what they do is they get the ultimate cushy gigs where they are not only, it's not just like being a rich person. They have access to information, including continuity of consciousness, understanding their origins, knowing where they're coming from, even staying connected to the beings there because they serve their agenda. And it's in real time. So they're like, oh, this is going on Earth. Well, these evil invaders here in Atlantis are going to talk to these embodied intelligence agents here and get them to do whatever they want to do. And those beings that are intelligence agents, they might not be wealthy with gold, like sitting on a golden toilet. They're powerful in a different way than just an ordinary, stupid, rich person is.
Yeah,
they're empowered. And they also do things in terms of manipulating and controlling their death cycle, where they can die, but then kind of be reimplanted in another physical body. Like, I'm trying to say, they hop bodies technologically, not just generationally, which is what lineages do, where it's like, grandpa died, grandpa was a mason, and grandpa inserted himself into the grandson, and the grandson carried around grandpa's ghost, and then saw grandpa's Masonic ring, and then, turned into his true evil self. Like, that happens all the time too, but not just that. What about if you're like, oh, you can kill me here, and then I'll just hop into this body over here? Like, this is negative walk-in stuff that I'm talking about. And that is going on with those intelligence agency beings to the point where they are totally sociopathic. They don't value life, death, or suffering at all. To them, it has all become so abstract because they're like, oh, you kill me here, I jump into this body. You kill me here, I jump into this body. They feel like if they kill others and there's like no consequence, like there's no, like, the soul doesn't matter, the soul trajectory doesn't matter. Like, I'm just trying to get you to understand the mindset of who and what you're dealing with. They're Agent Smith. Thank you. That metaphor just came into my mind. They are the Agent Smith. And so, in a lot of times, they are playing multiple roles. concurrently. Like, first I was this guy, then this guy died. Then I was this guy, and this guy died. Then I was this guy, and I came into the room and I had a conversation with these two previous versions of self that both died. Like, they get into all of these convoluted, overlapping time structures that they're not prepared to deal with. And it's just like when Homer Simpson cloned himself on the cartoon series, and then he was a clone, and he couldn't deal with all of his multiple clones that were going everywhere because he's not actually that intelligent. So intelligence agencies are not actually that intelligent. And the beings that are coming through them, like these otherworldly asshole invader beings that are trying to control everybody's lives, are not prepared for the repercussions of their crap time machine. That's what I'm trying to say. Their crap time machine that is allowing them to do this type of hijacking hijinks in time, but they're not sophisticated enough to actually deal with the blowback.
Right. Aurora, I want to kind of wrap it up a bit. I think 2 hours is reasonable for today. I want to thank you for coming on, and this has been great. Thank you for everybody who's been watching. Somebody mentioned the idea that the truth, what we call the truth, is simple, and I would like to say that yes, it's simple. It's not. If someone is trying to feed you a narrative that's complex, likely it's nonsense, okay? It's not complex, okay? The thing is not actually complex. Like, the ability to complexly narrate something, if you are trying to convince somebody of something, it means that, like, you're having some sort of insecurity within infinity, because infinity does not give a flying fuck about anything. Like, stuff is happening forever. It's always happening. Like, it's never going to stop happening, likely, unless somehow the Godhead decides to snooze for forever. But then he's going to, the second the Godhead's back on again, that forever that he snoozed, it disappears. Like, what I'm saying is, like, it's not complex. Like, the act of living, the fact that we're living, not complex. You don't have to do anything. Your heart beats itself, your lungs breathe themselves, your mind thinks itself. Okay, it's breathe, like, it's fine. You can dive into it via your own neurology and attach all kinds of concepts and make big narratives. That's what we do here. That's what we like doing. We like narrating. We like making storylines. If we didn't make storylines, then we would never do anything. We'd just sit and we'd meditate, and that's pretty boring, right? So I wanted to end on that thought for myself. Would you like to comment before we leave?
Yeah, the idea of sitting and meditating, that's like who we were in Lemuria, which would be predating or whatever in the evolutionary, expression into materiality before the culture known as Atlantis. And it was almost like living like a mushroom. Imagine that. Imagine, like, because you get all of your food directly from the sun. You don't have to walk around on 2 feet. It's more like a tree. It's a very different, peaceful level of existence that is way more about your body is an anchor to a consciousness that is flying all around the cosmos. And so that level of meditation, like, that is what, from that level of being, and then imagine saying, well, okay, I've explored everything I possibly can explore while sitting here as, a mushroom anchor on a planet flying around the cosmos. What would it be like if I could, like, walk around? What would it be like if I could, like, go places and do things? That's what it became like in Atlantis. So these are, like, 2 very valid levels of our development. That it's like, walk, first you sit, then you walk, then you crawl, then you walk. Like, you go through these levels. It's appropriate. And then at a certain point, you're like, well, now I've done everything that I could do with 2 arms and 2 legs and blah, blah, blah. And, like, what's the next thing that I become? And, whatever, we can talk about all sorts of cool things with that. That's a long conversation.
Yeah. Come back again, Aurora. I always love having you on. I know everybody else does as well. So thank you again, and get back at me later on whenever you feel like you'd like to learn something, and I'll show you how to do this yourself if you'd like to do live shows.
You're so kind. Thank you for helping me with live streaming. I would love that. And thank you so much for having me here on your show. Thank you.
This has been great. Thank you.
I'm hugging you both through the screen. I'm hugging you. You're wonderful.
Hug. Yes. Thank you all for hanging out, and we'll see you next time, okay? Bye, Aurora.